Hey guys, how's it going? I got a pretty good game in the Yamato for you guys today, but I kind of messed up my audio settings, so there's no actual gameplay audio or comms. I realized it was one of the settings with my capture card that I didn't switch when recording, and well, all we're really gonna have for this video is my sweet voice talking about what's going on, I guess. But it's a pretty good game. Some interesting things to watch. And here we're using Arthas the Code, and his plane increases your damage by your shells by 20%. And you can see there I got one Citadel for 20,000 damage. It's not quite the meta for a captain, but it does allow you to do some pretty crazy things, especially with getting those extremely high Citadel damage numbers. Um, in this moment, I'm not bothering with their Worcester just because my divmate said he wanted to death strike him, but clearly he didn't. Um, and when you're not really using the dispersion commanders, you can clearly see that these shots aren't quite as accurate as you would like, but sometimes they actually do end up going where you want them to, and I get a double Citadel in the cheek of the Yamato for 30k. But like I've said in my previous video, I like to play my battleships a bit aggressive, so the commanders that I use typically fit my playstyle of being aggressive, pushing in, tanking damage for my team, um, and you're going to see a pretty good example of how aggressive you can be in battleships when you use these commanders. Now, my Arthas the Code is level 16, legendary 2, so I do have 4 heals through Master Mechanic, and I do use Fight Fire with Fire versus Will to Rebuild in this game, simply because I don't plan on sitting bow in next to someone, and you'll see that I'm pretty much pushing the entire time since this flank has pretty much collapsed for the enemy team. There is an Iowa coming in, and he is sailing broadside, although when I take a quick look, I see that he's turning out, so I just keep shooting at this Jean Bart. Now, if I want to keep pushing, I need to make sure that this Jean Bart dies, otherwise I will just be putting myself into a crossfire. The salvo looks pretty good, but I get 2 pens in the turret without incapacitating it, and 1 pen that actually dealt damage. And pushing in for the past 3.5 minutes, I've already racked up 111,000 damage, and I'm just gonna keep going. Now, there's not really gonna be, I guess, anything really interesting happening as I just keep shooting a bow in Jean Bart and overmatching his armor, since Yamato can overmatch 32 millimeters, which is why I decided to keep shooting the Jean Bart versus the angled Iowa that has a 38 millimeter casemate and a 30 millimeter deck. Now their carrier is deciding to continuously drop me. I am already at 9 planes, and it is a Kaga, so the planes aren't quite as healthy, and there is a fairly large arming distance for the torpedoes. And because the arming distance is so far, he underleads me and lands 2 torpedoes. One of them actually dealt 7,000 damage, which is because of Arthas's unique skill that makes you take 25% more damage to your extremities while reducing your damage to your citadel by 25%. So essentially, penetrations will do a significant amount more damage, while citadels will do significantly less. For example, a Yamato that would get 1 citadel normally doing 16,000 would get closer to 11 or 12,000 damage, which sometimes does come in handy. However, you will see that penetrations and over penetrations in the superstructure actually do hurt quite a bit. And here we saw a pretty dang good example of Arthas's base trait,
what has to do with the fighter plane when you launch it, increasing damage by 20%. I got one Citadel on that Iowa plus a few pens, and that was most of his HP gone in that one salvo without getting more than one Citadel, which is pretty insane. And just as I'm saying that, I get a clear sky as the Kaga has let me shoot down 22 planes. And as that Iowa turned in, I'm trying a little too hard to actually hit the bow, when simply shooting the superstructure would probably end up me doing more damage. But hindsight's always 20/20. Now as I'm pushing in, I need to be aware that there are ships in the middle of the map. At Bravo, there is a Yamato. I think previously I had already zoomed in to take a quick look at him while I was pushing towards the Iowa to make sure that he wasn't looking at me and getting ready to bat my broadside. Fortunately, he was not looking our way and shooting at our other ships in our spawn. I do take a shot at his broadside, and the dispersion looked pretty good. Follow the shells, however, the shells landed slightly too high, a little bit lower, and it might have been a triple Citadel. And that would have been most of his HP gone. Now that the flank has been dealt with, I'm still pushing, and we're at 179,000, and we're still going. We're still just pushing in and creating problems for the enemy team. And at this point, we have a pretty solid lead. We got 8 ships to their 4, still alive, and their Chapayev is about to go down. Their other cruiser in Bravo had already died, so at this point all I need to do is just keep pushing in and keep creating crossfires with the rest of our team that's to the north in our spawn. Unfortunately, this Yamato was smart and put this island in between he and I, and at this point I can't really shoot at him, and he can tank the other flank while not taking as much damage from a crossfire. So I'm just going to keep going until either he moves forward or he decides to reverse to hide from the rest of our team. My divmate is being brave and going to try and go and brawl the Yamato with his Alaska. And at close range, Alaska definitely does have enough penetration to Citadel the Yamato. So fingers crossed that he is able to kill the Yamato without getting dev struck through the bow. The Kaga is still coming in and harassing us, but it's not that big of a deal. Carriers aren't that much of a threat as long as you know how to mitigate the damage that is incoming. And well, the Yamato does end up dying, and now it's just left to their Kansas and their Kaga. Unfortunately, like the Yamato, the Kansas is moving forward and putting an island in between us. So at this point, I'm still just going forward. Nothing really significant happening. I am contemplating about turning out just so I can be angled to where those planes are coming from. However, I still do need to be very careful with what the Kansas is doing. It does look like he is turning south to come towards me instead of towards the rest of my team, which is actually the better idea, so he can deal with less ships at a time. Now, while just staying angled away, I am slightly too broadside to this Kansas, and unfortunately, when the Kaga's planes return, I do get spotted and the Kansas can lob that part of the island, which he sends a full salvo my way, while my salvo is unable to hit him once he moves forward. But his salvo that's incoming, I'm a little too broadside, and you'll see what happens with pens and overpens. I just took about 30,000 damage just from his pens and overpens. His pens were doing about 5,600 damage when normally it would be closer to 4,000. So this skill is definitely something that can hurt you at times, but also at others it can help you quite a bit, especially since it reduces your Citadel damage. And something I forgot to mention was that it increases your shell damage by 15%. So while using this skill in combination with a fighter plane from Arthas's base trait, you're going to be able to get 35% more damage. If you throw on Celiacs, it'll be another 5%. Then you'd have a bonus of 40% shell damage. So you can really get your Citadel damage up to 21,000 if you really wanted to. For this build, I believe I am using Megatron for slightly more range, since going up against Conquerors, the 25% more damage hurts a lot when they're shooting HE. So me being able to stay a little further and going undetected in between salvos is kind of important. Their Kaga, for some reason, is on the border and gonna actually beach on the island, and this is gonna be it for the Kaga. He does decide to go after my divmate in the cap instead of coming to finish me off, which is kind of a blessing, so I can simply do more damage and finish him off. He is reversing now, but it's a little too late. He's put himself in a really bad position, and unfortunately with that salvo I wasn't quite able to finish him off. But with this next one, I will definitely be able to kill him. And this game, from the start to finish, we were basically moving forward non-stop. Might have slowed down a bit, but at no point did I stop and reverse bow in. I just kept pushing and being aggressive in the Yamato. It's definitely not something you see very often, especially since the Yamato only has 2 heals when you use a Dispersion Commander, so it's extremely susceptible to HE spam and fire damage. This game, I was able to do 207,000 damage and end up with 3,800 base XP. If I was able to shoot at that Yamato's broadside a little more and the Kansas a little more, I am pretty sure it could have been a 4K base XP game, which you definitely don't see a whole lot in battleships. Just earning XP in these things is quite difficult, but I hope you guys did enjoy, and please leave a comment, let me know on what types of content you want to see. But until next time, aloha.